All right, good morning here in Michigan. It's Mike Ritsema and Brian Abraham here at i3 Business Solutions coming at you about tax scams on tax day during a pandemic when there are some extensions to May 15. Let's talk about tax scams in your organization and what you should be looking for, especially relative to spear phishing. So let's talk about statistics. Where are we at today? In 2020, last year, 1 in 8 employees are making a mistake in sharing confidential information. And that's a big part of what the bad actors are doing, is they're just trying to collect, a birth date, an address, any information they can, and we are sharing it. 97% of users are unable to recognize a sophisticated phishing email. 97%. And well, I'll show you an example of one that I received this morning. A single spear phishing attack results in an average loss of $1.6 million. That's a big number. But Brian and I here are aware of at least $500,000 in spear phishing losses financially in West Michigan. That doesn't include the business impact, which is what we're talking about here. The loss in revenue or profit is a huge number. It's impacting organizations. The number of phishing incidents reported to the FBI nearly doubled from 19 to 20. These guys are getting smarter, and we're talking about war rooms of 100 people focused on getting not $200 out of your credit card, but $50,000 out of your business. And 85% of all organizations have been hit by a phishing attack, including some of our customers. Any comments or additions?
Yeah, like you said, Mike, these are getting more sophisticated. It's big business, right? This is not chump change. They're going after big dollars and they know how to do it.
Yep, exactly. So how are they doing it, and what are the components of a phishing email? And so what are we looking for? Well, number one, it comes from a trusted authority, and that lowers our guard. It comes from the IRS, it comes from QuickBooks, it comes from somebody we know and trust. Number two, it creates a sense of urgency. You need to act now. And I had this happen yesterday. Got a phone call from the UK, that's suspicious, but it was about an iPhone, $1,001 charged to our Amazon account. Whoa, I went irrational. I came straight to the office, logged into Amazon and looked for it. And the voicemail was well done. I logged into Amazon, couldn't find it. I hit the accounting team and said, are there any charges on our credit cards for a new iPhone, $1,000? The answer is no. The call came again later in the day saying, call us now, this is urgent. Yeah, I went irrational. Let's say I stayed rational. I did not call them back and said, here's my credit card number, give me the credit back. So, but definitely got me in the sense of urgency. It requests sensitive information. That data can be sold or used for future attacks. So they're just going to build that profile step by step by step. Comments?
Yeah, I apparently accidentally bought an iPhone yesterday also.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my phone call came from my local exchange also. So it looks like a local number calling you. You're enticed to pick it up. Like, who is this?
I'm not the only one.
Went to my voicemail.
All right. Good to know. Well, I'm not the only one. So what are the, here's examples of it. A government agency is the IRS is trusted authority. Today's the day that we feel this urgency. The urgency being a heavy fine. I need to deal with this now. I don't want to get hit with that fine. And then the request for sensitive information. They'll help process the payment, either a credit card number or collecting the Social Security number, something of value. I'll hand the next one, a software vendor, Intuit, over to Brian here.
Yeah, same thing. You need an urgent update. Your QuickBooks account is going to be locked or you've been hacked. Same thing applies. Comes from maybe a vendor that you know, that you use. It's looking for urgent action. and there's always a link, click here to verify. And we'll kind of show you in some future slides here how to identify the ones that are good versus bad.
You bet. Many of us use TurboTax, QuickBooks, Quicken, Mint.com. That's an easy one. So from an executive, I mean, this is the real spear phishing, especially if an organization has been hacked. And you can have all the security in the world, but if one of your customer or vendors are hacked, then a trusted authority can be a CEO, a CFO, somebody in the finance department from a vendor or from a customer. And that sense of urgency, need to deal with this now. You are my customer, you are my vendor. We need to fix this now. And then the sensitive information, anything from send a copy of a W-2 to change the debit number, we need to fix this now. An executive can be phished, and that's one of the most common things we see, is that it wasn't our customer that had a problem, it was their customer or vendor that was hacked, and they're complying with the request from an executive like that, right?
Yeah,
Right?
that's a little bit more tricky to deal with, because the email that you're potentially receiving is a legitimate email that came from that company's legitimate email system, from an actual user account, maybe their accounting department, but their accounting department was compromised, right? So what we see, and we've seen this quite a few times, is when someone will breach an email system, they won't act on it right away anymore. They used to, send spam out and do all kinds of dumb things. Now when they break into somebody's account, they sit there and they wait and they look around, they see who they've broken into. If it's someone in accounting, they wait for a transaction to occur. Then they're gonna jump into the middle of it. Let's say they're waiting from a payment from a vendor, from you. Your accounting person gets an email that says, hey, we have a new bank and routing number, send payments here. You're communicating with the right person, everything seems legit, but they've been breached on their end. So, and Mike, you can probably speak a little bit better to this, but some of the things that we recommend, this is not really a technology thing from a tool set perspective, but just a process and procedure from a human perspective. If your accounting people should know, if you're wiring money and it's going to somewhere other than where you've sent it to before, you have to do a voice verification on that. Call that person, someone at that company. Is this going to the right place? Did you request this?
Yeah, and that is, I imagine, the policy of your bank. It is the policy of our bank. Why? Because voice over IP systems have been hacked. And so the phone number will match with the phone call making the request. So this is an outgoing phone call to your customer, to your vendor, to the agency you're dealing with. You're dialing the known phone number, not taking a phone call from an unknown individual. So what are the red flags when you get the email? And I'll take the first one is from, and we'll go right around the horn here. But certainly when we look at this email that came in, it came in from irs.com. Well, that's logical, right? No, it isn't. It's irs.gov, I believe. So do you recognize the email address? Is it standard or unusual? Do you recognize the domain name? In this case, easy to be tricked. Have you had past dialogue? No, I am not engaged with the IRS right now, so I'm going to be very paranoid. I think that's the word of the day, is paranoia is good. Paranoia is good. And certainly we'll get to hyperlinks later, but we're never clicking or replying to an email like this. The date. What do we look for in the date, Brian?
Yeah, date or timestamp. So if it's coming in on the weekend, if it's coming in the middle of the night, and it was an email that is supposedly from a individual, a person, is it logical that that's the time that would be sent? Or is this an automated bot? Is it coming from the other side of the world?
Yeah, and in this case, it's 2:48 a.m. Surprise, I don't know of anybody in West Michigan who's up at that hour.
Or well, even, maybe a couple of our guys.
Okay, yeah, the night owls are working. That's a good point. So then we look at the to line, who is it sent to? And, is it an unusual mix of individuals? And in this case, it's sent to an undisclosed recipients because they're just marching this thing out across the world or across America. So unusual mix of people at your company. They grabbed a bunch of email addresses. They're sending it. Are you in the carbon copy line? We want to look at that. I'm going to page down and show you that in Outlook, if you're using Outlook, there is something called MHA is Message Header Analyzer. You can find it in your toolbar on the right side, right in Outlook.
I should add, Mike, that's not in there by default. So you'll have to ask whoever manages your email system to turn that on for you. So we turn that on so that you can see those headers.
It's part of Office 365.
Yep. Little feature you got to turn on.
Okay. Recommend you do that. I mean, you can always hover over an email address, but you can collect a ton of information here. In this case, on the left, we see that Costco.com is a legitimate email, but on the right, ironically, I got this email this morning, and it came from Outlook.com. And in the analyzer, I see that, in fact, it came from Outlook.com. And the from address, though, is tk.tc. Appears to be a Chase Bank email, but there's a big tell right here. The subject line is illogical. It's hello. So you can gather a lot of information using the message header analyzer.
Not just a friendly bank email?
Correct. Let me, I'm lost in my PowerPoint. Stay with me here. We'll come back to our flags and go to hyperlinks.
Yeah, so that's a big one. That's where people really get phished, where they put in information that they shouldn't have to, right? So this is the one where you click that link, it's taking you somewhere that is malicious, and it's asking you to input information that is going to do harm, essentially. So you can, with our clients, we use a couple different mechanisms to protect those links. Office 365 has a safe links service, which will check those links and try to catch if they're going somewhere bad. If you don't have a service like that, if you hover over the link, you can see where it's actually going to take you, because where it says it's going to take you in the text and the hover over information can be different. So that fools a lot of people.
Yeah, so again, our word of the day, paranoia, is I'm never going to click on a hyperlink in an email like this or open the attachment, which we'll talk about next. And where am I going to go? If I'm going to go to Chase Bank, I'm going to go to my browser, to my last Chase Bank login, and I'm going to log into Chase Bank. I'm going to go to a vendor account, to a customer account. I'm going to go to that known website and log in there using my password manager. So I'm not going to click on, I'm never going to click on a irs.gov hyperlink. I'm going to go to the IRS website in my browser, which I know is safe. And then I'll log into any type of site there. So when we talk about attachments, it is the same thing. Is it logical? Is it odd? I actually, our bank, about 6 months ago, I got a call from our banker saying, hey, I'm going to send you this document. And then he sent me an email saying, hey, watch for this email with this document. And then I got the document. Apparently I wasn't listening. 2 days later, I get the document. I'm like, this doesn't make sense at all. I called him and I said, did you send me this document? He said, yeah, I emailed you and I called you and said you're getting it. That's the kind of paranoia we want. So let's talk about then the content, Brian.
Yeah, so we covered this a little bit, but are they asking you to click on a link? Are they asking you to put in information? Grammar, I mean, is a big tell. Misspelled words, kind of broken English, something that was written by a non-native English speaker. A lot of these threats come from, the Russian and the non-English speaking countries on the other side of the world. So that's a common tell.
Yeah, and again, it's big business across the world where you'll have 100 to 150 people in a workroom, social engineering emails, and they're not great at grammar or spelling. but they're marching these things out and they're trying to make money. And if they can smoke down $25,000 or $50,000, it's a good day. You know, it's like the movie Wall Street. Let's you know, rah rah. We just smoked down another $50,000 here. And certainly, if there's any blackmail or compromising suggestions about yourself or about somebody you know, that's another tell that this is a scam. Let's stay away from it. And lastly is the subject. You know, does the subject line match the content? The email I just showed you, hello, no it doesn't. Is it relevant? And are you aware or unaware of the situation? So the whole package starts looking really crazy. And that's what we want to do, is be paranoid. So let's look at some real live examples and say, can you spot the fraud? And let's start with ADP and say, where is the tell in this? Looks like a good email that I need to click on the link and deal with a W-2 situation. But in fact, it came from hotmail.com. The from email address is hotmail.com. This is a fun one here. We'll see if Brian can get it. The QuickBooks one. How do we know that that did not come from QuickBooks or Intuit?
Well, that one's kind of hard to read. It's a little tiny, but it looks like QuickBooks is misspelled in the email domain.
Absolutely.
So that's a common thing that's done to spoof a legitimate organization, is they'll register a domain name with a very slight misspelling that you might not catch.
Yeah.
So even here at I3, you know, we're a little bit paranoid, as Mike said. So, you know, we realized people could spoof i3bus.com with a l3bus.com. So those were some domains that we had to register just to prevent people from spoofing us and pretending they're us and emailing our clients.
Well done. Thank you, Brian. Protecting our customers in that way. So here's one from the IRS that looks very legitimate. But if we scrutinize the to address, it's to user@domain.com. That's a big tell there. And you can see the incorporated.com above it. So pretty obvious that that one's bad. Then we come down to this Tom Held one. It is very interesting. What did you notice in there, Brian?
Can't quite read. Oh, that one is the from, right?
Yeah. So yeah,
you can't really see who it's from. It's asking for unusual information, right? All of the W-2s. Seems like if someone's not paying attention, that's potentially something that someone could ask for during tax season. But yeah, that's gonna send everybody's information to the wrong person.
Yeah, and it says when we read this email, it says that send it to Tom Held, but it came from Tom Smith, and it's also to Tom Held himself with some sort of carbon copy, and it's sent to the accounting department. I mean, there's just a lot of things wrong with this email. We want to be paranoid. And then this is a voicemail that comes in from the IRS saying, we need your social security number, call us back, and the numbers vary, and it's an unknown caller. So our cell services are becoming better and better at that. So we want to be paranoid, we want to scrutinize the email. So let's talk about how to limit the risk of an email phishing attack. And this is what we call layers of security. And I encourage you to talk to your current provider or your guy that takes care of your technology. And are you doing phishing simulation and cybersecurity awareness training? Send this email to your organization to educate them. Are you doing dark web scanning? Are you getting a list of compromised passwords from the dark web? Two-factor authentication. And my story remains. I will tell you my 4-digit passcode to my debit card. And it is the same 4-digit number that I was given 25 years ago by AT&T for, in the old days, the 1-800 save money on a phone call. And you had to put in a 4-digit code. My bank has not asked me to change that code in 25 years. Why? Because two-factor authentication is what you know and what you have. I have my debit card. I know my 4-digit code. In the case of logging into your technology, I have my email address and I have my password. I have my cell phone and I know my password. That's what it is. I have my cell phone. I'm going to get this straight. And so you might have my password, but you don't have my cell phone. And if you steal my cell phone, you don't have my password. Two-factor authentication, what you know and what you have, protects you from 7.5 billion people all over the world. Apply system patches regularly. This is so fundamental, it's unbelievable, but Brian was just in an account 2 weeks ago where patches were missing.
I was in doing a discovery yesterday somewhere, and we found a Windows XP machine. Oh, and also the wireless was wide open to the world. So anybody that connects onto the network can basically breach that Windows XP machine in a matter of minutes.
I mean, we're talking about layers of security here, and layers of security are not just antivirus and firewalls. It's how you manage this. It's the checklist of processes that you apply, a layer of web filtering so that when you click on what you think is the FedEx account and it takes you somewhere else, it says wrong, you're not going to that address. Antivirus and spam filtering, fundamental layers. But Brian can speak to disabling unneeded services in your email platform.
Yeah, so there's a couple different things you can do there. One is disabling, and this gets into a little bit of technical stuff, but disabling unneeded protocols. So, you know, back in the day, we used to use things like POP3 and IMAP to connect to email. Those you have to disable in Office 365 to make sure they're not still available. It's a great kind of loosely locked door that allows people to kind of hack into your system. So you want to have those disabled. Outside forwarding, that's a common thing when somebody breaks into an account. They set up this third-party forwarding that's siphoning all your email off to someone else. You can disable that altogether, or you can create an alert that notifies an administrator when someone has created an external forward. And that's what we have set up here, so that, you know, in some cases we have to do an external forward, but we get an alert on that says, you know, Joe configured an external alert going to this address. We can verify that that's what was supposed to happen.
Yeah, beautiful. And in Microsoft 365, we can run a secure score and we start executing against those settings. There's layers of security that we can apply to protect the organization from phishing attacks. I'm going to move right past questions here and wrap up and say, number one, educate your team, point them at this brief educational video. And number two, an assessment. If you're watching this video and you're saying, man, I wonder how secure we are, you can contact i3 Business Solutions and we will do a complimentary assessment of your technology and give you a security score on that. It's Mike Ritsema, Brian Abraham, signing off and wishing you well in paying your taxes today.